Okay, in this section, we're going to be talking about distracting elements. So, what I mean by distracting elements is things in the background or the foreground that are distracting the viewer from the subject. Light could also be distracting, but in this case, we're not going to be talking about light. We're going to be talking about just objects and stuff in the background. So, here's an example of this girl with this pole behind her. That's a distracting element. Now, what they did here is in Photoshop, they erased the pole, but I just want you to imagine that we moved the girl over 2 feet to her right, and the pole wasn't there, and then we took this picture. You want to find a way to not have things that are distracting in the background. Pretty straightforward, but I'm going to show you a couple more examples, and then things that are commonly that you're going to find in the background that are distracting, okay? So, here, something as simple as this. Most people take this picture and not think twice about it. But if you can move this little thing away and there's not like this wooden little piano thing here. I think that's a piano. There in the background, and you take that away, the right picture looks better than the left picture. Okay? So something like that. Now, a lot of people use Photoshop and they use a healing brush or a Snapseed healing brush and erase distracting elements. You can do that. Go ahead. I recommend it. But if you can, before you take the picture, get rid of things in the background that as much as you can and just leave as little as you can so there's more focus on the subject. It's going to be a better picture. Here you can see there's a lot of stuff in the background. You have here curtains, a lamp, a picture, all these things in the background on the left picture, but on the right picture there's nothing there in the background. The right picture looks way better than the left one. This is the biggest example of distracting elements. You want to get rid of everything. You take a picture and be like, and you go, wait, give me a second, let me move this out of the way, let me move this, let me pick this up. Okay, now the picture looks better. Do that. Don't get lazy. You're gonna get better pictures if you get rid of distracting elements in the background or move the subject over to where there's less distracting elements. It's just gonna look better. Sometimes you can't avoid it. Sometimes you're stuck with distracting elements in the picture. It is what it is. But whenever you can get rid of it, get rid of it. A big one that I hate and I just avoid it at all costs. You're never gonna see it in any pictures in my portfolio. Is people in the background. At all costs, I avoid taking pictures of models or subjects where there's people in the background. I don't like people in the background. The right picture is what you will see in my portfolio. The left picture is an amateur. If I took a picture like this, I would go into Photoshop, the healing brush, and Snapseed, whatever, and erase the people in the background. I have done it multiple times. But whenever I can, I find a time when there isn't people in the background. If I know there's going to be a lot of people in the background, I tell people this is not a good place to take pictures. When we go downtown, it's really bad to take pictures. There's so many people there. So I just don't like people in the background. It's a distracting element. So as much as you can, avoid people in the background. Even if they're really far away and they're very small, just avoid it or erase them in editing. Here's another example. Mom, sister, dad, you want it to look like the right image, okay? Here is something that you could do. You can use shallow depth of field. You can make the background blurry so that the distracting elements are less distracting. So this bus here and this person here become less distracting in the right picture because they're blurry. So things like that can help you with distracting elements. If there's so much going on in the background, you can blur the background using portrait mode, using Snapseed's blur tool that you will see in our editing section to really get rid of the distracting elements without having to erase them. Here is a really terrible picture. This tree branch is going right through the head, and it looks like it just looks really bad. So I wouldn't have taken a picture there because of this tree. Um, it just looks really bad. It's really hard to erase. So make sure nothing is going through the person's head, through the people. That's just really distracting. It looks really bad. So another thing that's very distracting and is a very simple fix is trash in the ground. Okay, you see a Coke can in the ground, a bag in the ground, something. I just go and pick it up and just get rid of the trash. Another thing is like sometimes I have a picture and the floor is a little wet. So the floor is clean. The floor is clean throughout the whole picture. And this little part is wet because, I don't know, water fell on there or something. And the whole floor looks good, but there's this little part that's wet. I always go into editing and I highlight that area and it erases it and it makes it all flat. Also, if the floor has a crack on it, I highlight it and then it erases it in Photoshop or Snapseed and then it's gone. Little things like that to me are distracting elements too. You can choose how picky you want to be. For example, in this picture right here, I might go right here, highlight this and erase that just so it's even. And then go throughout most of the picture and say, oh, let's get rid of this little green here. Let's get rid of this thing right here. Let's get rid of these gaps here. Let's get rid of the whole tree in general, you know? You can be very picky, you can be not so picky, and just choose what you think is distracting or not, and get rid of it. I could tell him, hey, you know, take this thing off because it's distracting. Now, another thing that girls do all the time, and it's been caught in some of my pictures and I had to edit it out, and I tend to forget when I shoot pictures of women, is that a lot of girls and women will have one of these in their wrist. So they will look like this. You know, they're posing or whatever. And this is distracting. This looks bad, right? So I tell them, take this off. You know, now I'm just pretending to be a girl here, whatever. But this thing right here is very distracting, for me at least. People might not notice it. I notice it. I take it off of people. As you can tell already what type of photographer I am from talking about distracting elements. I'm very OCD about things, but things like this you can fix and get rid of so that the picture looks better. Okay, so that's it when it comes to distracting elements. Hopefully I helped you guys out, and now we're going to move on to the next lecture.